Hello book lovers! My name is Carrie and this is Spines and Spoilers. Welcome back. I hope that you had a wonderful holiday and that your new year turns out to be a better one than 2021. Today I want to talk about 22 books that I want to read in 2022. Last year I did a similar video and it ended up being long as hell. I didn't enjoy having to edit that, so I'm going to try and make it a little more brief this year and just kind of do it like... Of the books on this list, 9 of them I have a physical copy of, so I'm just going to pick them up from the pile and go from there. The first book on my 2022 TBR is The Firemen by Joe Hill. Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King, which, if you've read any of books, you can tell by his writing, honestly. But this book is basically about a plague that makes people burst out into flame. The story circulates around a nurse named Harper who finds out that she has been infected with the disease and she's pregnant. And it's basically about her journey to try and cure the disease and to beat it, if she can, at least long enough for her baby to be born. The second book on my 2022 TBR is Sing Unburied Sing by Jasmine Ward.
Jojo is 13 years old and is trying to understand what it means to be a man. He doesn't lack in fathers to study, chief among them is his black grandfather, Pop. But there are other men who complicate his understanding. His absent white father, Michael, who is being released from prison. His grandfather, Big Joseph, who won't acknowledge his existence, and the memories of his uncle, Given, who died as a teenager. His mother, Leonie, is an inconsistent presence in his and his toddler sister's lives. She is an imperfect mother in constant conflict with herself and those around her. She is black and her children's father is white. She wants to be a better mother, but can't put her children above her own needs, especially her drug use. Simultaneously tormented and comforted by the visions of her dead brother, which only come to her when she's high, Leonie is embattled in ways that reflect the brutal reality of her circumstances. When the children's father is released from prison, Leonie packs her kids and a friend into her car and drives north to the heart of Mississippi and Parchman Farm, the state penitentiary. At Parchman, there is another 13-year-old boy, the ghost of a dead inmate, who carries all the ugly history of the South with him and is wondering. He too has something to teach Jojo about fathers and sons, about legacies, about violence, and about love.
So, if you did not previously know anything about the book, now you do, and now I do. One that I am looking forward to a lot and also a bit worried about because there's a lot of hype behind it. The next book that I want to read in 2022 is one that I've actually already read. It was the first book that I read in January. That is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. It was a really good book. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was, honestly, but the author is from North Carolina, which is my home state, and it is set in North Carolina. It begins around the 1950s or so, and it follows a little girl named Kaya who has to raise herself from the age of 5 because all of her family abandons her one by one, which is very sad. She attempts to go to school, but is made fun of from day one because she can't spell dog. And it's basically a story from the start of how she survives, how she makes it on her own. And also it branches off into the story about a potential murderer of a boy named Chase. And we're kind of trying to figure out how that merges into the story of Kaya. This book was nothing that I expected, really, and I really loved the ending. I can't even tell you how much I loved the ending. It was so good. I think I ended up giving it 4 or 5 stars. No, 4.5 or 5 stars. At any rate, yeah, goal achieved, go me. The next book that I would like to read in 2022 is Insomnia by Stephen King. I don't know why I'm holding it over here where you can't see it. But I've been trying to read this book for ages. It's just been sitting on my shelf for a very long time. I can't even tell you how long it has. And it's a really interesting concept. It's about a guy who has insomnia and starts having hallucinations, which if you don't sleep long enough, that is what happens. But someone else is having the same hallucinations as him, that the individuals of Derry, Maine, of course it's set in Derry, are transforming into these horrible monsters, which is really interesting concept. Like, I've got another price tag on there, like my Crawdads book. I'm very classy, but yeah, it's a very interesting concept. I love Stephen King. I can't wait to read this one, but it's gonna have to wait because there are others in line. But yeah, I'm gonna figure out where to put that one. The next book on my list for 2022, it's a twofer. It's The Girl Who Takes an Eye for an Eye, and The Girl Who Lived Twice, both by David Lagercrantz. They are books 6 and 7 from the Millennium series, started originally by Stieg Larsson. I am not going to go in depth about what these are about, otherwise we're going to be here all day. But they still circulate around Lisbeth Salander and Mikael Blomqvist. I got this one last year, I think, at the beginning of the year, maybe. I think this one was released last year, and then I got this one the year before. I'm excited for both of them, but I think I'm going to have to be in the right mood to read them, maybe. And I'm going to actually read the physical copy rather than an audiobook to get the right effect. Next book on my TBR list for 2022 is Wilder Girls by Rory Power. It is basically about a school which ends up being cut off from the rest of the world. The teachers at the school end up dying, and these students are infected with some kind of disease that makes them mutate. And they kind of have to figure out how to survive on their own. Eventually, one of these girls goes missing, and they have to try and figure out what happened to her. This book was big a couple of years back, I think, but I got it last year, I believe, in about June. And I've wanted to read it for a little while, but it kind of just ended up being pushed to the back of my shelf. And I want to mend that this year. It's not even a long book. Yeah, it's only 332 pages. It's not even a long book. I don't know why I haven't read it yet, but... The next book on my list is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Cora is a slave on a cotton plantation in Georgia. Life is hell for all the slaves, but especially bad for Cora, an outcast even among her fellow Africans. She is coming into womanhood, where even greater pain awaits. When Caesar, a recent arrival from Virginia, tells her about the Underground Railroad, they decide to take a terrifying risk and escape. Matters do not go as planned. Cora kills a young white boy who tries to capture her. Though they manage to find a station and head north, they are being hunted. In Whitehead's ingenious conception, the Underground Railroad is no mere metaphor. Engineers and conductors operate a secret network of tracks and tunnels beneath the southern soil. Cora and Caesar's first stop is South Carolina, and a city that initially seems like a haven, but the city's placid surface masks an insidious scheme designed for its black citizens. And even worse, Ridgway, the relentless slave catcher, is close on their heels. Forced to flee again, Cora embarks on a harrowing flight, state by state, seeking true freedom. I couldn't think of a great way to summarize that one. I figured, why not just go ahead and read the synopsis? It's one that I've had for a little while. I got it from Goodwill, surprisingly, and I wanted to read it for a little bit. I'm going to do it this year. I must read it this year. I'm going to make myself read it this year. Next book on my list is Difficult Women by Roxanne Gay. It follows the stories of several different women. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I love Roxanne Gay's books, and I'm excited to read this one. Also, can we take a moment to appreciate this freaking cover? It's just very aesthetically pleasing. Most of the books that I have a physical copy of that are on this list, I've had for a long time and never got around to reading. This last one is no exception, and I feel like a fraud and a sham because I say that I love this series so much, and I love this series, but I haven't finished it. It's Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. It's a huge book, and you can see where it's marked that I had started it before. I think I actually got to the one in the middle, closer to the middle, but yeah, I had started it. I just didn't end up finishing it because at the time I ended up going through a breakup, a really bad breakup, and that negatively tainted the book, and I ended up in a huge reading slump and didn't read for years. And now I'm having to come forward and admit I haven't finished the Inheritance series. I need to actually finish this book, and honestly go back through and read the beginning of it. I might just do an entire reread of the first 3 books and then read this one on its own, maybe do a vlog about it. But I'm so sorry if I have misled you. I feel like such a sham. So those were all of the books that I have physical copies of. The next 6 will be ones that I have audiobook copies of. The next book is The Butchering Art. It is a nonfiction story circulating around the individual who basically revolutionized the medical industry. His name was Joseph Lister, and he was the first person to start questioning the way that things were done and trying to evolve things so that the medical industry wouldn't have to sacrifice so many people, and so many people didn't have to be in pain while in their surgeries. I'm not very eloquent today, as you can tell. I think that's the only non-fiction book I have on this list, and it's one that I've been looking forward to a while. My husband got me a copy like a year ago or so because I had it on my wish list. He got me an audiobook copy, he got me an ebook copy, and I still haven't read it for whatever reason. I think just because 2020 and 2021 have been absolutely hellacious. The next book is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. Mcmanus. I would best describe it as The Breakfast Club meets a whodunit. It follows 5 stereotypical teenagers, you know, the jock, the beauty, the brains, all that stuff, and their quest to kind of figure out who killed one of their friends. The reason that they believed this individual died was because they planned to post some really sensitive information about a lot of their classmates on Monday, and they ended up dying the night before. So that's what the supposed motive is. They just have to figure out who was the one who did it, because everyone technically has some kind of motive. The next book is The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adiami. I heard this book compared a lot to Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is basically why I'm here for it. I've heard so many good things about this book, and I'm excited to finally read it. The next book is Shakespeare is for Squirrels by Christopher Moore. I got this audiobook last year during a sale on Audible. I really enjoy Christopher Moore. His books are always really funny, and I just enjoy his work. But yeah, this one I don't know a lot about necessarily. I kind of want to go on it blind. I've found that going into his books blind makes for a better experience than going in with expectations set ahead of time. Next book is The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. This was turned into a series, I believe, a TV series, and circulates around an individual who is an orphan. And the ways that she has to escape are basically taking pills or playing chess, and I think she ends up deciding to do a little bit of both, and they quickly figure out that she's a bit of a prodigy. I don't know where it really goes from there, but I'm intrigued to see where it does go and why it ended up getting so much hype. This is a book about chess, so I'm hoping that there's more to it, you know? The next book is Felix Ever After by Cason Calendar. This book was everywhere for a little while. It basically circulates around this individual named Felix Love, who feels like he's never really going to find love, ironically enough. Then one day he ends up getting catfished and basically forced into a love triangle of sorts. And he kind of has to reflect and learn more about himself, and figure out how he feels about himself. From what I've heard, it feels like this is going to be one of those books where it touches on a lot of really serious and maybe hurtful things, but is also kind of wholesome and heartwarming. That's the vibe that I get from it. Not positive, but I'm looking forward to it. That's the end of the audiobooks that I have. The next 3 are ARC's advanced reader copies that I technically have e-copies of at the moment that I would like to read this year. I'm going to have to read more than that because they're ARCs and I have to review them or lose them, basically. But these are 3 that I really want to focus on this year. The first one is The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sulin Tan. This is one that I'm actually reading at the moment. I don't know if I even covered that. I didn't tell you what I was reading and drinking. Who am I? I completely skipped that segment of the video. Yeah, I'm reading The Daughter of the Moon Goddess right now. I can't believe I skipped that. From what I've gathered, it seems to circulate around Chinese folklore and is a story kind of about redemption and possibly revenge. It's supposed to have a very fantastical element to it. But I like what I have read of it so far, and I've only heard good things from people who have also read the arc. The next arc that I would like to read is Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Belfluo. I'm excited about this one because I think it's one of the few, like, gay arcs that I have. It is basically about the main character reconnecting with a childhood friend and kind of instantly falling in love with her, and having to hide it. And the two of them moving in together, I believe. It sounds very cute. I'm pretty into it, and the fact that I need to read more romance in general because I don't read enough of it just is even more incentive. This next book is based on The Great Gatsby, actually, and is rewritten from the perspective of Daisy and the other female characters. It's Beautiful Little Fools by Gillian Cantor. I'm pretty excited for this one. It took me a while to get into The Great Gatsby, honestly, but I've always wondered what happened to Daisy and the other individuals in this book, and from what I understand, it kind of goes into the aftermath as well, which, I'm pretty psyched about learning about, I'm not gonna lie, and it's just such an interesting concept in general, revisiting that world and these characters after all this time. These last books are books that I don't have a copy of, but I do want to read this year. First one is Spectre and Spectres 2. I read the first one this year, actually I think around November. It's a very cute graphic novel which revolves around a Scooby-Doo-esque crew that's investigating ghosts, but in this case they are documenting it via vlog. It's a little bit spooky, I'm not gonna lie. It would be good for maybe... I think it would genuinely be creepy for people who are younger than, like, middle grade, but otherwise it's just like, ooh, that's spooky. And I enjoy the whole vibe of it. I love the characters. I loved everything about it, the art. And I'm really excited that there's a second one, and if there are more, I want to keep reading them. Like, I legitimately would like to continue consuming this material. This next book also takes place in North Carolina, so I'm already kind of hype about it. It's written by T. Kingfisher, who wrote The Hollow Places, which I've already read, and that also took place in North Carolina. The book is called The Twisted Ones, and it basically circulates around this individual who needs to go and clean out her grandmother's house at the behest of her father, and turns out that her grandmother was a hoarder. She finds a journal that was written by her step-grandfather that details a lot of strange and creepy things that are kind of happening. And then as she's there, things kind of start going bump in the night. I'm really interested to see how that ends up unfolding. I really enjoy T. Kingfisher's writing in general, and the fact that she can kind of intertwine humor and horror. The next book is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Ayemide. I believe it's kind of a dark academia type book. It's set in an academy that is basically reserved for the rich and the talented. And one day some really dark secrets start leaking about the individuals who attend school there. I'm very into dark academia, and from what I understand, it's supposed to kind of go after institutionalized racism and stuff like that. I've also heard that there is a lot of representation, but I'm not sure if that's true. Either way, I'm interested. I've been interested since it came out, I think a couple of years ago. I just never have gotten around to getting a copy, which seems to be the hardest step of the process for me. And then it just kind of has to sit on my shelf and simmer for like a year. Next and last book on my list is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley. She is from the Chippewa tribe and tells stories about her community. This is a fictional novel, however, which circulates around an individual named Donis. She starts falling for a guy named Jamie, but something feels kind of off. And she ends up witnessing something involving a murder and kind of gets involved with a murder investigation with the FBI. That's all that I really know about the book. That's all that I've really heard about the book. But I've heard that it's really good. I've heard that the representation is great. And I've been interested in it since it came out. It came out last year, though, like within the last year, so it's still a fairly new book. The unofficial additions to this list are the arcs that I currently have just in general, and the rest of my TBR list from 2021. I think I only had like 5 books left that I needed to read from that list. And they're on here, but they're just like as a tag on, like, yeah, I would like to get around to all of those, but this is the primary concern. All of the 22 books that I would like to read in 2022. So thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope that you are staying safe out there as much as you can. I know that this is really an icy type of year, but stay as safe as you can out there on the roads and all that, and also wear your masks. That has nothing to do with the cold, though it will warm up your face, so, you know, perks. Stay safe if you can. That being said, don't forget to like and share and subscribe, and most importantly, you know what I'm going to say. You know it. What is it? You can say it. Just love yourself. Please. Okay, bye.